I remember staring at myself in the mirror, the white gown heavy on my skin, perfectly pressed, perfectly clean, perfectly meaningless now. Breathe, Emily. You look beautiful, my mother said, her voice tight, almost rehearsed. I forced a smile, but my stomach twisted. Thanks, Mom. She left, and I turned back to the mirror. My reflection was a stranger, eyes wide, lips trembling, heart pounding. Liam was supposed to be waiting. My Liam, my forever. Then my phone buzzed. I froze. It was a message from Jenna, my best friend. He Sep's leaving you. I Sep's so sorry. The words hit like ice water. I dropped the phone, and it clattered against the marble floor. I didn't hear the knock at the door. I didn't hear Liam's voice when he stepped in. Emily, are you ready? His smirk was calm, too calm. I laughed without realizing it. Ready, really, Liam? You think this is okay? He took a step closer. What step's okay? I stepped just being honest. Honest? My voice shook. Honest is telling me before all this, before I put on this dress, before my mother walked me down the aisle, you were never honest, were you? He shrugged. Casual. Dangerous. I told you I loved you. I just love differently now. Love differently. I felt my chest tighten. You! I couldn't finish. The betrayal was too sharp, slicing through me like glass. And then it hit me. My mother's face in my mind. The way she smiled at him this morning. The way she lingered over something in her purse when I asked about him yesterday. You knew? My voice was a whisper. Bitter. Emily. Mom appeared behind him, hands raised, trying to look calm. Too late. You knew? I repeated. Louder this time. You let this happen? Her eyes flickered. Guilt, maybe shame. But mostly, nothing. It's complicated, she said. Complicated? I laughed through tears. You let my fiancé, your daughter Sep's fiancé, leave me standing here, humiliated for some reason you couldn't even explain. Liam Sep's smirk widened. I didn't set plan this, it just happened. I could feel my knees weaken. The room spun. The flowers blurred. The chandelier lights shimmered like cruel little stars. The photographers clicked away, capturing every inch of my heartbreak, my humiliation, my shame. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to sink into the floor and disappear. But then through the haze of betrayal, a spark lit inside me. I straightened my back. My hands clenched into fists. My chest burned. I don't need this, I said, my voice low but deadly. Neither of you. This ends now. Liam Sep's eyes narrowed. Emily? No. I cut him off. I am done waiting for your excuses. Done listening to your lies. Done being the victim. Mom opened her mouth, probably to beg, to explain, to justify. I didn't give her the chance. I turned. The dress swirled around me. The heels clicked on the marble. Every step felt like fire under my skin. I walked straight out, past the guests, past the whispers, past the cameras. And as I reached the doors, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating. I was free. Not broken, not defeated, free. And maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of my story. Maybe this betrayal, this heartbreak was the beginning. The beginning of me. I didn't go home, not really. I wandered. The city blurred around me, lights sharp and meaningless, people moving like ghosts I couldn't touch. I ended up at Sophie's apartment. She opened the door before I could knock. Emily? Her voice was soft, hesitant. You disappeared after the wedding. What happened? I shrugged, leaning against the frame. Nothing happened, just life. Her frown deepened. Nothing? You walked out of your own wedding, Em. That Sep's not nothing. I laughed bitterly. You think I stem a failure because I stayed? No, she paused, searching my face. I don't know how to help you. You can stet. My voice was quiet, low, but it carried more fire than I wanted her to see. No one can, not now, not ever. Sophie reached for my hand. I pulled away. I didn't want pity, didn't want advice, didn't want excuses. Later, alone, I stared at the ceiling. Nights were worst, silence pressing against my skull. My tears were quiet, controlled, a storm trapped inside a cage. I wrote every betrayal, every lie, every stolen glance, every smirk. The way Liam looked at her, the way Mom smiled like she'd won some secret prize. I wrote it all down. Names, dates, conversations, etched into notebooks like evidence. I didn't just write to remember. I wrote to understand, to map out every move, every weakness, every chance I had to turn the tables. My therapist's office became my refuge, though at first I doubted it. Emily, Dr. Harris said, leaning forward, pen in hand, you're carrying a lot of rage. A lot of pain, but there's sips also clarity in your words. I hear someone who sips planning, someone who sips awake. I didn't net answer at first. I watched the ceiling tiles. I don't yet want to be awake, I said finally. I want to disappear. Dr. Harris shook her head gently. Disappearance is instead healing. It's steps hiding. You can stet control the world by hiding from it. I laughed, low and bitter. I set not hiding. I set observing. I set preparing. Her eyes met mine. And what is it you stir preparing for? I wanted to tell her, the full scope, but I didn't. Not yet. Justice, I said. Just that one word, sharp, heavy enough. Sophie tried again that weekend. She dragged me to brunch, talking nonstop, laughing at nothing. I smiled once, barely, and the guilt stabbed me like knives. She didn't know. She couldn't know. You've been so quiet, she said, pushing my coffee closer. You used to talk to me about everything, now nothing. I'm busy, I muttered. Busy planning, busy thinking, busy reshaping the world that tried to crush me. She reached across the table, her hand brushing mine.
I know you stir hurting.
But don't let this destroy you. Don't let them win by making you disappear. I looked at her, really looked. Sophie, the one constant, the one light. I once disappear, I whispered. But I once forgive them either. Not yet. Not ever. And that's when the quiet rage settled. The kind of rage that doesn't scream or cry. The kind that whispers, sharp and deliberate, in the spaces no one sees. It wasn't chaos. It was control. I spent hours reading, learning, planning, Liam's habits, Mom's routines, the way they laughed thinking I was broken. Every detail became a thread, and I pulled slowly, weaving a tapestry where I was in control. Some nights, I'd sit by my window, notebook in lap, pen hovering over paper. If they think I'm powerless, if they think I'm fragile, they're wrong, I whispered to myself. I imagined the look on Liam's face when he realized he'd lost more than just me. The flicker of shock in my mother's eyes when she understood she had underestimated me. The storm inside me didn't scream. It didn't demand attention. It waited, patient, silent, deadly. By the time Sophie called again, I was calmer, cooler, sharper. Emily, dinner tonight? She asked. I can stet, I said. I have things to do, plans to consider. Plans? What plans? Her voice was light, but curiosity peeked through. I smiled faintly, a secret curling at the edges of my lips. Just life, my life, and making sure no one forgets what happens when they underestimate me. The line went quiet. She didn't understand. Couldn't, and that was fine. Not yet. Alone again, I closed my notebook. The city outside was quiet now. Too quiet. Perfect. Because storms don't announce themselves. They wait. And when they strike, no one forgets. Weeks passed in a blur of quiet planning and scribbled notebooks. The storm inside me had settled into a pulse. Steady and sharp. I wasn't broken. Not anymore. I was calculating. Waiting? Then it came. The ping of my email. Something ordinary in appearance, but I felt it in my chest before I even opened it. Subject: Project Proposal. Urgent response required. I swallowed, fingers trembling slightly. I clicked. $3.4 million. The numbers burned into my eyes. The contract was for a high-stakes project at my old workplace. The very company that had doubted me, laughed at me, labeled me, not executive material. They assumed I couldn't handle it. I read the email again, and again. I didn't move for a long time. Then my phone buzzed. Alicia. My mentor. Emily? You okay? You sound frozen. It's an offer, I said slowly, my voice uncertain, but the uncertainty was just surface. Inside, my blood was racing. $3.4 million, at you know where. Oh, she said, her tone quick, excited. I knew it. I knew something like this would come. You have to take it, Emily. This is your chance. I don't know, I whispered. What if they expect more than I can give? What if it steps too big? Alicia laughed softly, sharp, knowing. Too big? Emily? They underestimated you before, they still underestimate you again. That steps your advantage. You stir not just taking this contract, you stir taking control. You stir proving them wrong. All of them. I leaned back, letting the words sink in. Control, power, proof. It tasted sweet on my tongue. The same thrill I felt the day I walked out of my wedding, the first spark of freedom, magnified. But, Mr. Harrington, I muttered. He doubted me. I don't know if I can face him. Good, Alicia said sharply. Feel that. Let it fuel you. You spent weeks mourning, planning. Now you strike on your terms. You don't go there to ask, you go there to command. To conquer. And yes, make them regret underestimating you. Her words hit me like fire. I could feel it building, the adrenaline I thought I'd lost. The spark in my chest that had been dormant. Waiting. I pictured him, Mr. Harrington, sitting in his leather chair, smug smile, arms crossed, thinking he still had the upper hand. Not anymore. I printed the contract. I read it. Every clause, every stipulation, every assumption about my limits. I tore the page with my fingers, metaphorically of course, but it felt good. I called Alicia back. I am going to do it, I said. Good, she replied. And Emily? Don't forget who you are. Not the girl they left heartbroken. Not the girl they doubted. You scepter the storm they never saw coming. The words settled over me, heavy and exact. I smiled faintly, sharp. Alicia couldn't see it. I didn't care. Walking into the office the next day, I felt different. Lighter, sharper. The wedding gown was gone. In its place, power tailored into a suit that fit like armor. Confidence I had forged in fire and heartbreak. Mr. Harrington looked up when I entered. His smile faltered slightly. Emily, he said. I didn't expect you so soon. I never do what anyone expects, I said. Calm, cold, controlled. Every word measured, deliberate. I him here for the project, $3.4 million. Let Septons get to work. He hesitated, then nodded slowly. Right, of course, I trust you will handle it. I caught the flicker of doubt. Just a flicker, but enough. Sophie's words from weeks ago echoed in my mind. Don't let them win by making you disappear. I hadn't disappeared. I had evolved, sharpened, planned, and now I had the battlefield laid out before me. Every detail, every weakness, every underestimated moment. Alicia watched from the sidelines, her own satisfaction barely hidden. See, she whispered. They thought you were broken. But you some are unstoppable. I let myself feel it then. The thrill of anticipation, the calm before the storm. Every betrayal, every stolen moment of my heartbreak, it all funneled into this. Emily? Mr. Harrington's voice pulled me from my thoughts. Do you have any questions before we start? I smiled. Cold. Yes. Just one. Do you really think I can handle it? He blinked, hesitated, and that sip's all I needed. Because I could. I would not just handle it, I would own it. Every dollar, every decision, every look in that office would remind them of their mistake. Every betrayal had led me here. Every deceit had carved a path. And now, I was stepping onto it. The adrenaline surged through me. Not the panic of heartbreak. Not the fear of judgment. The raw, precise thrill of a battlefield I had chosen. And in that moment, I realized this was my revenge. Not loud, not messy, but meticulous, controlled, sweet. The contract wasn't just money. It wasn't just a project. It was power, my power. And I was ready to claim it. Work became my armor. Numbers, contracts, deadlines. They were all distractions, shields I wrapped around my heart so the past couldn't touch me. Then the past came knocking anyway. My phone buzzed. Liam. Emily. His voice was soft, hesitant. Can we talk? I didn't answer. I didn't want to hear the lies, the excuses, the fake remorse. He had had his chance. A few days later, Mom appeared at my office, smiling too brightly. Emily, I thought, maybe we could Mom, I said, cutting her off. Calm, dawn set. She froze. For once, no excuses, no rehearsed apologies, just the faint quiver of guilt I had waited for. I turned back to my laptop, letting the silence fill the space. Even my coworkers couldn't resist. Whispers followed me down hallways, smirks when they thought I wasn't looking. She couldn't handle it, one said quietly. I told you, she's fragile. I smiled faintly. Let them believe it. Let them underestimate me. Every meeting became a stage. I watched them carefully. The envy in their eyes, the subtle fear, the regret flickering when I made precise decisions. They thought I was quiet, composed, weak, but I was neither. One afternoon, I stumbled across a file, misplaced on someone else's desk. Documents detailing Liam's financial schemes, misappropriated funds, hidden accounts, clever manipulations. I leaned back, letting it sink in. And then another file, emails, receipts, proof of Mom's role in enabling him. Every lie, every slip, every betrayal cataloged. I didn't shout. I didn't confront. I just read, absorbed, planned. Emily, Alicia said over coffee later, you said her glowing. I see it, you said her not just surviving, you said her thriving. I smiled, letting her words settle. Thriving silently, I murmured, letting them crumble without a word. She raised an eyebrow. Silence is a weapon. It steps more than that, I said. It steps justice. I spent nights analyzing, tracing every misstep Liam had made, every shady move Mom had helped cover. And with every discovery, the thrill grew, not revenge for revenge's sake, not confrontation for ego's sake, but precision, karma, slow, inevitable, like water wearing stone. Liam called again. Emily, please. I made mistakes. I muted the call, listened to his silence on the line, felt the desperation I knew he couldn't hide. Mom tried again, visiting under the guise of concern. I just wanted to check on you, Emily. I set him fine, I said, measured. Better than fine, I set him unstoppable. Her smile faltered. She didn't understand yet, couldn't see the careful web I was weaving. At work, every contract I closed, every deal I finalized, every decision I made was deliberate, calculated, proof that the girl they wrote off was now untouchable. A coworker muttered, I don't know how She's doing it. She's different. I let them think it was luck, chance, incompetence on their part. But behind the screens, behind the spreadsheets, I was orchestrating something bigger. Patterns emerged, weaknesses in Liam's schemes, loopholes my mother overlooked, evidence that if revealed would dismantle the facades they hid behind so comfortably. I didn't need confrontation. I didn't need drama, just patience, observation, and timing. One evening, alone in my office, I leaned back in my chair, letting the weight of it all settle. The adrenaline of the wedding betrayal, the thrill of the contract, the discovery of their secrets, it all converged into a quiet, steady power. This was more satisfying than any confrontation, more intoxicating than the anger that had burned after I walked away from Liam. Karma didn't need me to shout, it needed me to wait, to guide it, silently, steadily. I imagined the look on Liam's face when the truth surfaced. The subtle panic in Mom's eyes when she realized she couldn't manipulate the story anymore. And I smiled. Not because I was cruel, but because I had learned something important. Revenge wasn't about tearing them down loudly, it was about letting the universe do its work, while I stayed in control. The masks they wore began to crack. Small slips, hesitations, moments of guilt they couldn't hide. I saw them, documented them, stored them like ammunition. I didn't act rashly, I didn't confront. I observed, collected, calculated. Every interaction, every whispered comment, every overconfident glance was another piece of the puzzle. By the time the truth would surface, it would be undeniable, and I would be untouchable, clean, precise. Sitting back, hands clasped, I let the quiet satisfaction fill me. The storm I had carried for so long wasn't chaotic anymore. It was steady, sharp, silent. And it was only the beginning. I stared at the contract on my desk, the numbers and clauses staring back like a challenge. $3.4 million. Power on paper. My chance to rewrite everything. Alicia leaned over my shoulder, eyes sharp. You sure about this? I looked at her. I sup sure about one thing. I sup sure about one thing. I sup sure I'm not handing them an inch without consequences. She smirked. Good. You start not just signing, you start taking control. That starts what scares them more than anything. I took a deep breath. Daniel, my lawyer, sat across from me, adjusting his glasses. Emily, you understand that what you SEP are about to do is legally solid, no loopholes for them to exploit. I understand, I said, my voice steady, and I want every clause, every contingency, every subtle trap in my favor. They underestimated me before, not this time. He nodded, impressed. This is meticulous, strategic. I've seen contracts signed in anger, in haste. This is art. I leaned back, letting the weight of it sink in. The wedding had left me hollow, broken. But now, hollow had turned into focus. Pain had turned into precision. Alicia Sepp's voice softened. Emily, it's Sepp's okay to feel nervous. Nervous. I laughed. Low, bitter. I stemmed terrified. But fear isn't instead a weakness anymore. Fear is fuel. Daniel handed me the pen, then let Suts make history. I picked it up, feeling the weight of it. Every decision, every signature, every amendment whispered, you underestimated me. I called Liam first. His voice came through, smooth, arrogant. Emily, I heard about the project. Congratulations, I guess. I smiled faintly, sharp. Thanks, Liam. But congratulations won't set matter when you realize the contracts have been restructured. Every misstep you made, every oversight, every hidden account, you'd still be accountable. Not me. Karma will handle the rest. There was a pause. I imagined the shock, the panic I couldn't spet here but knew existed. Emily? What are you saying? I let it hang. I stummed saying don't so underestimate me. Ever again. Then I signed. The pen felt heavy in my hand. Not because of responsibility, but because of power. The wedding had ended me, yes. But this was my beginning. Next was Mom. I didn't call. I didn't need to. She would hear eventually. I pictured her face when the consequences hit. Every smile she had given Liam, every deceit she enabled, every whispered excuse, she would understand too late that she had underestimated her own daughter. Alicia leaned closer. Emily, this is a turning point. You feel it, right? I do, I said. I feel alive, not just alive, unstoppable, and it sups intoxicating. Daniel watched quietly, a small smile tugging at his lips. Yusuf learned well. Fear, betrayal. Yusuf turned them into leverage. I traced the lines of the contract one more time. Subtle protections against envious colleagues. Clauses that ensured accountability for every mistake Liam had tried to hide. Warnings baked into the fine print. Silent, precise, unassailable. I remember, I said quietly, more to myself than anyone else, standing in that dress, betrayed, humiliated, frozen, and now I saw rewriting the rules, on my terms. Alicia Sepp's hand brushed mine. This is just the start. The wedding was your breaking point. This is your rise. I looked at her, eyes sharp, burning. Sepp spent weeks planning, observing, gathering evidence, learning their weaknesses. This contract, it's Sepp's more than money. It's Sepp's proof that betrayal doesn't step define me. That underestimation is my advantage. Daniel nodded. Every clause is a statement. Every amendment is a message. You stare not just signing a contract, you stare sending a warning. I smiled, feeling the adrenaline rush back. Fear, yes, still lurked in the shadows, but stronger, sharper was power. Control, satisfaction. Alicia leaned back, satisfied. You feel it don't subs you. That exhilaration, that subs your own agency, your own story being written for the first time. Yes, I whispered, soft but deadly. And every betrayal, every deceit, every painful memory, it all fuels this moment. I scepter Sidon, not her anymore. The one who stood frozen in a wedding gown. I scepter something else, stronger, calculated, unstoppable. I watched Daniel slide the signed papers across the table. Alicia's eyes shone with approval, and I felt it, the intoxicating rush of turning every heartbreak, every betrayal, into opportunity. The wedding had ended me. Liam's lies had hollowed me. Mom's betrayal had scarred me. But this contract was my rebirth. I whispered to myself, quietly, deliberately, as if letting the words sink into every fiber of my being. You underestimated me. Never again. And with that, I closed the folder. The pen down. The deal sealed. The turning point had arrived. And I was ready. Not for revenge yet, not the loud, dramatic kind, but for something more precise, more satisfying, more inevitable. Karma, now guided by my own hand, was about to work. The wedding had been my fall. This was my rise. And nothing, no one, would stop me. I watched from my office window. The city sprawled beneath me, unaware of the quiet storm I had set in motion. The plan wasn't flashy. It didn't require confrontation. It required precision, patience, silence. Liam called, again. Emily, can we meet? It's sup's urgent. I let it ring. Let him stew in the uncertainty he had once caused me. I imagined him pacing, biting his nails, realizing the first of his deals had collapsed. The contracts he counted on, the accounts he hid, crumbling quietly under my subtle hand. Later, a coworker muttered, "Did you hear about the Dalton account? It just evaporated." I didn't respond. I smiled faintly inside. They thought it was luck, chance. They never suspected the hand that had orchestrated it. I checked my email. Another deal Liam relied on had fallen apart. Subtle, almost invisible mistakes that only I could trace back to him. Miscalculations, financial gaps, tiny details that spelled disaster. My phone buzzed. Another message from Liam. "Emily, what's happening? I don't understand." I stared at it. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I typed, carefully, deliberately. "You understood once. You underestimated me. Consider this a lesson." I didn't press send, not yet. Let the tension simmer. Fear was more intoxicating than confrontation. Meanwhile, Mom began to receive calls, quiet murmurs from family friends, long whispers about her favoritism, her indulgence of Liam, her complicity. She didn't know who had spoken. She didn't know why the eyes that once admired her now questioned her. I imagined her sleepless nights, wondering why her social veneer was cracking, why whispers were turning into cautious scrutiny. I didn't need to confront her. Karma, guided carefully, was doing its work. At work, my colleagues, those who had mocked me, whispered about my supposed fragility, now needed my expertise. "Emily, can you review this?" one asked, panic in his eyes. I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch. "I'll take a look," I said softly. Voice even, calm, every word measured, every pause deliberate. Another muttered, I thought she sat failed." I smiled faintly. No words necessary. My actions spoke louder. I solved problems others couldn't. Made decisions with precision they envied but couldn't articulate. The tables had turned. Silently, inevitably. In private, I documented every misstep, every slip, Liam's financial maneuvers, Mom's enablers, colleagues' envy, everything I had observed, every secret uncovered, neatly filed. My notebook became a testament, not just to their mistakes but to my resilience. One evening, Liam finally showed up at my office, desperate, unannounced. "Emily, please. I need to know what SEP's happening. SEP lost accounts. Deals, everything is falling apart." I looked up, calm, cold. "I don't know what you mean," I said. His hands shook. "Don't set play with me. You stir behind this, aren't set you." I leaned back, letting the silence stretch. Finally I said softly, deliberate, "I sep not behind it. I sep ahead of it, always have been. You thought you could underestimate me. You thought betrayal was enough to destroy me. You were wrong." He swallowed hard, eyes wide. I could see the panic flicker, the same flicker I had once felt when the wedding ended, full circle. But this time, I was steady. You're impossible," he said, voice cracking. "I sem precise," I corrected. "Relentless, silent, and unstoppable." He left, his pride, his arrogance, his security, all quietly dismantled. I turned back to my work. Every email, every contract, every careful adjustment was a silent blow. My colleagues now approached me, with respect tinged with fear, not because I shouted, not because I flaunted my success, because they recognized the power in quiet mastery. Even Mom called, voice trembling. "Emily, are you okay? You've changed." I paused before answering. "I sit in more than okay," I said. "I sit in stronger. I sit in focused. And I sit in learned that power is in sit in loud." It sits in relentless, quiet, invisible, until it strikes. She didn't respond immediately. I let her feel the weight of my calm, the shadow of her complicity. At home that night, I sat by my window, notebook in lap, pen in hand. Every small victory, every whispered defeat of those who betrayed me was recorded. Not for pride, not for revenge alone, but to remind myself I was in control. I had turned heartbreak into strategy, betrayal into leverage. Alicia's words echoed in my mind. The storm is quiet but unstoppable. Precision is power. I closed my eyes, felt the satisfaction seep in. Liam's deals failing, Mom's social standing faltering, colleagues who mocked me now dependent on my skill. Every silent reprisal was a tiny release, a drop of justice settling perfectly into place. I didn't shout. I didn't gloat. I let the consequences speak, watching them squirm, watching their facades crumble silently. It was more than satisfying, it was healing. The betrayal that had once shattered me became their undoing. Every whisper, every misstep, every overlooked detail. My revenge was meticulous, invisible yet devastating. And as I leaned back in my chair, city lights flickering across the window, I realized something essential. Power didn't need a voice. It only needed patience. Observation, precision. With every silent triumph, I healed. With every subtle victory, I grew stronger. The storm hadn't erupted. It had been gathering, quiet and calculated, and now, it was unstoppable. The gala glittered, chandeliers reflecting off polished floors, laughter spilling like champagne. Everyone dressed to impress, pretending to be untouchable, pretending I hadn't walked away, pretending they hadn't underestimated me. And there I was, calm, composed, immovable. I saw Liam first, leaning against the bar, his smirk still there, arrogant, casual. He thought I'd forgive. He thought the past could be buried under champagne and music. He spotted me. "Emily," he said, stepping forward, smooth, arrogant. "Can we talk?" I let him approach. Let him believe he still held the power. "I wanted to apologize," he began, voice faltering slightly. "I never should step." I raised a hand. "Stop." His eyes flicked up at me, confusion flashing. "Stop, Emily?" "I said stop," I repeated, calm, sharp. "You don't get to apologize. Not here, not now, not after everything." He stumbled, words failing. I let it linger. The memory of the wedding, the humiliation he caused me, I let it echo in the room, without speaking. Let everyone see. Then my mother appeared, stepping nervously toward me, face pale. "Emily, please." I didn't set no. Didn't stet no? I asked softly. Voice smooth but lethal. "Mom, you knew everything. Every stolen glance, every whispered excuse, every betrayal you enabled, and you did nothing. You chose him over me." She faltered, hands shaking. I thought I was protecting you." "Protecting me?" I laughed, quietly, bitterly. "You protected him. You protected your pride. Not me, not my heart, not my life." The whispers around us grew louder. I let them. Every eye in the room turned. Every smile they once reserved for my mother's social grace faltered. Every whisper carried judgment. I turned to Liam. His jaw tightened. He tried to speak, but I held his gaze. Calm, controlled, immovable. "Emily, please. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I said. "And now, so will everyone else." I allowed a small smile, not cruel, not vindictive, just knowing that their carefully curated lives, the arrogance that had once humiliated me, were cracking under the weight of truth. Mr. Harrington, standing across the room, raised an eyebrow. He'd watched this entire exchange quietly, impressed by my poise. He recognized authority when he saw it. And now I radiated it. Power exercised flawlessly. "You're remarkable," he said softly when I passed by. I nodded, acknowledging him, not out of need, but out of recognition. Respect earned, not demanded. I turned back to Liam and Mom. Every word they tried to speak faltered. Every excuse crumbled, and the crowd witnessed it. Public scrutiny, quiet but precise, started to settle like dust on old lies. "Emily," Mom Sep's voice was tiny now, frail, unconvincing. You never cared," I said. "Not really, and that Sep's the truth. Everyone here sees it now. your choices, your silence, your favoritism, your enabling. Liam Sepp's face went pale. Emily? It wasn't Sepp supposed to. It wasn't Set supposed to what? I asked, voice soft but sharp enough to cut. It wasn't Set supposed to hurt me. It wasn't Set supposed to backfire. He swallowed, and I let the pause stretch. Let him feel the weight of every decision he had made. Let him squirm silently. I could see it. The spark of panic in his eyes, the hesitation in his posture, the arrogance that had once been untouchable now faltering under the weight of his own mistakes. Mom's hand trembled at her side. She glanced at the crowd, realizing the judgment, the scrutiny, the inevitability of consequences she had ignored for so long. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to threaten. The room absorbed it all. The power of silence, observation, and precision worked better than any words I could have screamed. Emily? Liam Sepp's voice cracked. I didn't Sepp mean. I shook my head slowly. Intentions don't set erase betrayal. Words don't set undo the past. But accountability does, and tonight you are accountable. All of you. I stepped past them, walking through the gala, heels clicking softly against the marble. Eyes followed me. I could feel it. The respect, the fear, the acknowledgement. Every subtle step reinforced what I had built. Every calm motion announced that I was untouchable now. Mr. Harrington caught my gaze again. This is more than business, he murmured. This is leadership, authority. I smiled faintly, acknowledging it. Not proud, just steady, balanced, poised. The wedding had ended me. Liam's lies had left scars. Mom's betrayal had hollowed me. But tonight justice was quiet, deliberate, flawless. I let it sink in, power exercised, authority recognized, truths unveiled. Karma didn't shout. Karma didn't need spectacle. It only needed me. And for the first time since that day, I felt equilibrium. Not revenge screamed in anger, not justice demanded through chaos, but balance. Precise, controlled, perfect. I raised my glass to myself silently. The storm had passed, the reckoning was complete. And I stood taller than ever. The office was quiet. Just me, the hum of computers and the city sprawling beyond the windows. My kingdom now earned, not inherited, a skyline I'd built with strategy, precision, and sheer will. Elisa Faust's voice broke the silence over the phone. Emily, congratulations, you stir unstoppable. I smiled faintly. Unstoppable does instead even cover it. I Sampali's exactly where I was meant to be. She chuckled softly. I knew you stet rise, but I didn't stet know you stet turn betrayal into an art form. I leaned back in my chair, letting the memory wash over me. The wedding, Liam, Mom, the humiliation, the hollow ache that had consumed me, all of it. Every heartbreak, every whispered lie, every stolen moment of trust. And now? Gone. Not erased, no, but transformed, into lessons, into strength, into triumph. I picked up the folder on my desk, new contracts, new partnerships, new deals, each one meticulously planned, carefully executed, each one a testament that I controlled my life, my choices, my destiny. Alicia Sef's voice softened. Emily, do you ever feel like looking back? Sometimes, I admitted, but it steps not longing, not regret, just reflection. I walk past the ruins of what broke me, but I don't step linger. I build on them. She paused, knowing silence could be its own answer. And the $3.4 million contract. I laughed quietly, a low, satisfied sound. It was the turning point. The proof that power doesn't instead have to be loud. It can be quiet, deliberate, unstoppable. I looked out the window. The city lights flickered like stars brought down to earth. Each one mirrored a step I had taken to rebuild myself. Each one a silent applause for the girl who had walked away from her own wedding, broken but unbowed. My phone buzzed. A new inquiry, an opportunity bigger than anything I'd imagined. I tapped it open. The adrenaline surged, but this time it was tempered with control. I wasn't chasing revenge anymore. I was chasing growth, mastery, life on my terms. Alicia's words echoed in my mind. Walking away isn't the end, it's the beginning of everything you deserve. I thought of Liam, of Mom, of colleagues who had sneered at me, dismissed me, mocked me behind closed doors. They were shadows now, cautionary tales, not because I destroyed them publicly, not because I shouted their failures, because they had revealed themselves. And I had acted with precision, not rage. One of my former colleagues stopped by my office last week, nervous, hesitant.
Emily,
I just wanted to say, I was wrong, you handled everything flawlessly. I nodded, letting the silence carry weight. Thank you, I said, calm, collected. But let's Seps focus on moving forward, not dwelling on mistakes. He nodded, eyes wide. He didn't need to know I'd orchestrated the subtle downfall of those who underestimated me. Let him see respect. Let him see competence. Let him see power in motion. That was enough. I closed the folder and poured a glass of water. My reflection in the glass looked different. Steady, unshakable, tempered by fire. Every scar from betrayal was etched there. Yes, but not as shame, not as pain, as resilience, as proof. Alicia Spett's voice came again, warm, proud. Emily, I can still imagine anyone who could have handled this journey as you did. Neither can I admitted softly, a smile tugging at my lips. I almost didn't set survive. Almost didn't set rise. But I did, and I set I'll never forget that girl. The one who walked away, she sets the one who made this possible. She laughed, gentle. Then honor her, celebrate her. She earned it. I looked around the office. The awards, the contracts, the skyline beyond, everything I had built, and for the first time in a long while, I felt truly at peace. Peace, not from vengeance, not from proving anyone wrong, but from mastery over my own life, from reclaiming my narrative, from walking away from what destroyed me and watching it become the soil from which I grew. There was a knock at the door, a junior associate, new, eager. Emily. Do you have a moment? Got a client proposal. I think you shall want to see. I gestured to the chair opposite me. Of course. Let's see it. As he spread the papers across the desk, I studied them. Calculations, projections, opportunities. My mind raced, not with fear, not with doubt, not with the old panic that had once gripped me, but with excitement, possibility, control, mastery. This is good, I said. But we can make it better. Let sex adjust here, here, and here. Make the numbers speak for themselves. Let sex make it undeniable. He nodded, awe and respect clear in his eyes, and I realized I was no longer haunted by what had broken me. I was building something far greater, a life that could never be shaken by betrayal again. Later, alone, I returned to my window. The skyline stretched endlessly, a city of opportunity, of challenges, of victories, each building, each light, a testament to strategy, to patience, to resilience. I whispered softly to myself, almost reverently. I walked away, I survived. I rose, and I am unstoppable. The past didn't haunt me anymore. Liam didn't frighten me, Mom didn't manipulate me. Colleagues no longer mocked me, their echoes existed only as markers of my strength, proof of how far I'd come. And I smiled, not out of malice, not from triumph over others, but from quiet, undeniable victory over circumstance. The wedding had been the breaking point. Humiliation, heartbreak, a hollowed-out version of myself standing in white satin, exposed to the world. But the $3.4 million contract, the subtle dismantling of those who betrayed me, the respect I'd earned, the life I'd reclaimed, that was proof. Proof that walking away sometimes leads exactly where you're meant to be. I leaned back, hands behind my head, eyes on the skyline, and for the first time I allowed myself to exhale fully. I had risen from the ashes. Stronger, wiser, unstoppable. And this time, the victory was mine entirely. I sat at my desk, journal open, pen in hand. The city hummed softly outside my window. Quiet, peaceful. For the first time I had the space to reflect. I wrote letters I would never send, not to Liam, not to Mom, not even to myself, the version of me frozen in white satin, betrayed and humiliated. Each word was deliberate, each sentence a whisper of acknowledgement, not accusation, not apology, just truth. Dear Liam, I scribbled, I hope you understand the weight of your choices. I hope the consequences you faced taught you what I couldn't, what betrayal feels like. I do not wish you harm. I wish you insight. I paused, smiled faintly. That felt heavy but freeing. Sophie peeked in, curious, still writing those dramatic letters. I glanced at her. Some things deserve drama. She laughed. A bright, easy sound. Read one to me. I hesitated. Then softly, Dear Mom, I know you tried to protect yourself. I know you thought you were doing right, but you chose him over me, and that hurt. I'm not angry anymore. I understand. I've grown. Sophie shook her head, smiling, wiping a tear she didn't mean to let fall. Wow, that set's powerful. You sut, unrecognizable from that wedding day. I like being unrecognizable, I admitted. It means I'm not defined by their actions anymore. Later, Alicia joined me, quiet as ever. She glanced at the stack of letters. Emily, these aren't such letters to punish. They were letters to acknowledge, that such real closure. I nodded. I realized something today. Revenge, power, contracts. They healed part of me. But closure? Closure comes from understanding, from accepting, from letting go of the weight of anger and humiliation. Alicia leaned back, approving. Exactly. You can rewrite the past, but you can write your present and your future. I picked up another letter. Dear past me, you were scared, betrayed, broken, you felt powerless. But you survived. You rose, and everything you endured prepared you for what's coming. You are stronger than you imagine. I paused, pen hovering. The tears didn't sting. They were quiet, healing, validation of the journey I had walked alone, then with Sophie, Alicia, and the pieces of me I had reclaimed. Sophie leaned over my shoulder. You scepter crying again. Not really crying, I said, reflecting, closing chapters. She grinned. Well, you sepsard, earned it. The girl in the white gown? Gone. This woman, she seps unstoppable. I laughed softly. A warm, calm sound. Unstoppable. Yes. But wiser too. Learned that walking away doesn't mean running. It means choosing your path, choosing dignity, choosing yourself. Alicia Sepp's eyes met mine, and you did. Entirely, you scepter not defined by betrayal. Emily, you scepter defined by your resilience, your choices, your courage. I closed the journal, the letters tucked inside, safe, private, no one needed to read them. They weren't weapons, they weren't confessions, they were acknowledgement of pain, growth, and triumph. I looked out the window. The skyline stretched endlessly, lights twinkling like scattered promises. Each light reflected my own journey. Broken pieces made whole, shadows transformed into strength. Do you ever miss her? Sophie asked softly, the scared girl before it all. I thought about the girl in the white gown, frozen, betrayed, heart hollowed by love and trust. I remembered the sting, the disbelief, the tears that wouldn't stop. No, I said after a pause. I honor her, but I don't miss her. She led me here. She made me fight, made me learn, made me rise. Sophie nodded. Good answer. Alicia added, closure is instead revenge. It's peace. You have it now. You have earned it. And with it, everything else becomes opportunity. I smiled softly, looking down at my journal one last time. The pen resting on the page felt lighter. The weight of the past, the betrayal, the humiliation lifted. I stood, stretching, feeling the calm settle in my chest. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. Every scar, every setback, every sleepless night had sculpted me into someone unbreakable. The door opened. Sophie stepped in, grinning. Ready to take on tomorrow? I nodded. More than ready. Tomorrow isn't intimidating. It's mine. Alicia Sefsta's voice followed, warm and steady, and you will continue to rise. Always. I looked at the skyline one last time, breathing deeply. The city, vast and glittering, mirrored the life I had rebuilt, bold, bright, and entirely my own. I was no longer the girl in the white gown, frozen in heartbreak. I was a woman who walked away. And in doing so, walked straight into her destiny.